words of my mouth and meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. In the early part of World War II, a Navy submarine was stuck on the bottom of the harbor in New York City. It seemed all was lost. There was no electricity and oxygen was quickly running out. And so in one last effort, they sent a special dive boat from the Navy equipped to see if they could find out if anyone was alive. The diver went down there and his boots hit the submarine, and the sailors heard the noise. They went and started tapping in darkness in Morse code, "Is there any hope?" The diver on the outside, recognizing the Morse code message, signaled back, "Yes, there is hope." A lot of preachers this week studied and looked at the gospel message and says, "Is there any hope for a sermon out of this?" And the answer is yes. Sometimes it seems we are trapped in a dreadful situation. All around us, we are running low on hope. We look for a word from beyond offering it to us. This world in which we live is plagued with war and famine, death, destruction. The more we try to rescue ourselves, the more we seem to fall behind. We wonder, is there hope? And what we get this morning is the story about a manager who, like the prodigal son, it is the same word, prodigal, waste all of someone else's property. This guy sees that his time is short and that he's been called into the office to give an account. So he goes and starts reducing his debts to the people who owe him to gain their trust and their loyalty, a backup plan. And he is commended by his boss. In those days, you see, rich landlords and rulers were loan sharks, using exorbitant interest rates to amass more land and to disinherit peasants of their family land, in direct violation of biblical covenant law in several places in the Old Testament. The rich man, along with his steward or debt collector, were both exploiting desperate peasants. They both got a cut of the added hidden interest. When he reduced the payment, the steward, maybe he was simply forgiving his own cut of the interest. This guy actually forgives debts. I think that is the first thing Jesus is praising. This guy forgives things that he had no right to forgive. Maybe he forgives for all the wrong reasons, for personal gain, to compensate for past misconduct, but that's the decisive action he undertakes to redeem himself from a position from which it seems he couldn't be saved. Perhaps it is simply a survival tactic, but Jesus here praises the act of forgiveness. When you think about it more, no matter how you learn the lesson, forgiveness is a survival tactic. Holding on to resentments and grievances will eat you alive. Forgive. Forgive it all, forgive it now, forgive it for any reason you want or for no reason at all, but forgive. And after you do, you will find the lesson that life abides there. It boils down to the same thing. Deluded or sane, selfish and or unselfish, there is no bad reason to forgive. Extending the kind of grace God shows us in every possible arena can only put us more deeply in love with God. So I think that is hope. Because I know me, and I know most of you. And I know we are imperfect humans who make mistakes, hold grudges, and think of ourselves before we think of others. We forget to follow God and walk in God's ways. So it is hopeful to know that we can take a stab at following in God's ways. And when we do, we can try at forgiving with no good reason for it. Only knowing that we are supposed to do it and believing that it will free our souls. So that is part one. It is the same part one that the early service got, but now there's a different part two. So if you heard the first one, you might want to tune in now. So I want to draw your attention to the cover. Carolyn and I always try to shake it up a little bit and make you think. And so you know, there are not many etchings of the parable of the steward. There are just not that many good options. And so when that's the case, I always type in the parable and modern art to see if something comes up. So this is from a New York sculptor, Tom Otterness, who came up with this display on Broadway, Upper Broadway, near subway stops, to poke fun in New York City about how they make money. He has a big reputation for stating the obvious, but in interesting and maybe amusing, make you think ways. Obviously, you see it's called Educating the Rich on the Globe. There's the globe. That's the guy from Uncle Moneybags, the guy from the Monopoly game, if you haven't figured that out. On his back, they're little people holding up the globe. And there's a child reading a book on top. I like this because it makes you think, right? About our situations, about our systems. I like this because I think that Uncle Moneybags is starting to learn the lesson. Perhaps he is broken. Perhaps he's realizing. And I like that there's a child leading us through that. There is the least of these who is reading and seeking to bring about change. And so I think what the second part of this sermon is about is this other thing that the manager learns that Jesus loves, is that he's worried about pleasing the wrong people. This manager is worried about pleasing the guy at the top. When what really is important is figuring out that it's what the people below you think about you that matters the most. And what you think about the people below you. Your survival, actually, the guy figures out, depends on them, not the one at the top. Do they respect you and show gratitude for who you are as a person, as a boss? Or do they talk behind your back and know who you really are? That was the game changer for me, because I'm at this point in my life where you all have finally taught me to stop thinking about what other people think. What matters is what I think based on my relationship with God, my gifts as a human being, my responsibility to others because of the gifts I've been given. I think that's what this guy figures out in the parable. He is not perfect, and Jesus doesn't say that. But he has changed, and Jesus calls us to do the same. And then to try to go out and turn the sculpture of the world upside down. The structures of the world that benefit from the least of these right now, holding it up. So, I guess this is part 3 now. So here's where I'm going to leave the script, and then I know I can't advocate for any political figures from here, and I'm not about to, but I hope I can take down a bank. So we'll see if that's legal or not. I don't know. Because at the end of this, it says you can't serve God and wealth. Well, in our Bible study, we realized that it's not wealth here, it's mammon. You may remember that translation, which is more of bank, really, than wealth. Because Jesus doesn't say wealth is bad, it's just what you do with it. Like, we have to have money. And so it's you can't serve two masters. So several weeks ago, a neighbor came down from Walker News and was in need of some help with his BGE account. He'd gone over, and so we have a discretionary fund. You all are generous, and a fund to help other parishioners. And so I was able to help him with the bill, and I said, why are you in this situation? And he said, well, my check from Social Security came late because of my birthday, and something else changed, and the amount changed, and he was charged an overdraft fee. And so it's $36 every time you make an overdraft, if you don't know this. And he lives on the edge, and so he got behind. So, fine, we all have mistakes, we've all done that. And so I helped him. And so that was about a month ago. So this week our neighbor came back, and the neighbor was in trouble again because something happened to healthcare, and now they're taking money out of his Social Security to pay that. And so all of a sudden he was behind in BG again, and then he had overdrawn, and so it was 2 overdrawns. And then there's a daily overdraft fee as well, if you don't know this, and now I do. So in between those conversations, I had been complaining about this to my mother, who one day maybe she'll come preach. It would be interesting. Hi, Mom. And she said, Stewart, you need to put on your collar and go up to the bank with that guy. And I resisted until Tuesday, when I decided I was mad. And so he hopped in the car and I drove. But I didn't go to the Giant Bank. Now I'm getting on my soapbox, but I'll just. And at the Giant PNC, they closed where you could normally take your cash and give it or talk to a teller. And so I knew that was going to be kind of a problem. So I went to the White PNC, which is the one by Eddie's up on Charles Street, where there are 6 kind people to help you, and all standing here. And so, this is not in the text, but I'm going to keep going. So I walk in and I say hi, and I have my collar on. I said, this is my friend. I'm here to help him iron out some issues with his bank account. And this other guy was like, maybe I should get you another chair. I said, that'd be nice. And so he started giving credit cards and other things, and he printed out the list of overdrafts, which is like $300 the fees are now for this guy. And my ears are turning red, and I'm getting angry, and this person doesn't really understand because he lives on the edge and does not have a college degree. And so at some point, the lovely people at the bank at Giant had talked him into a business credit card that he needed, which he didn't need and was paying fees on, and a business account, which was charging a monthly fee, in addition to the fees when he was overcharging. So we sat there and tried to explain, and I was able to help bring the balance up to 0 and say, look, you don't need both these cards, it all transfers in here. And so then there are other people there, and if you've ever been to that bank, it's a lovely bank. There are lovely people who have a lot of money who don't pay any fees because they have enough money, right? Most of us don't pay bank fees. I don't pay bank fees because I have a balance, and it's okay. And so, being my mother's son, I started talking a little bit louder. I said to my friend, I said, you know, this is how big banks make their money. I said, and I'm quite sure Shamar does not want to make money this way off of your backs. Kind of loudly. And he said, no, sir, it's not how I want to make money. So, I wanted to preach that early service, and then we had a conversation in the sacristy. I decided to preach it. Not because I did something right, because it took me a while to figure out I had to use my power in this situation and my authority and do something that was annoying that couldn't be fixed another way. But I'm saying this now so you'll hold me accountable, because most of our money is at PNC Bank that the church holds. Some $100,000 of the church's money is there, right? So we have to make decisions now as Christians as to how we live in this culture that is this, right? I think this is gospel. Am I preaching or meddling, or is this a problem? This is all connecting, right? Okay. So we have work to do, I guess, is what I'm saying. To forgive, to somehow be agents of hope to a lot of people that think they have none. Because they have a negative balance and owe some people some money. And that's holding them back from being who God has created them to be. And the system has increased the wealth of many others on their backs who are holding up the world and have helped a lot of us get high up the ladder. I don't think God much cares how we get to grace. God calls us to leave behind whatever dishonest ways we have been a part of, whatever ways we've become wealthy. But God also calls us not to pay attention to satisfying one that is above us, but to look below, to be grateful for where we are, and then to bring that person along with us. I hope and pray and believe that's what this community is all about. Most of us, I know, have stories of being below on the ladder and getting up higher. It is our call, and we are called to figure out something to bring hope to those people, to tap on their lives and say, yes, there is new life and you can be set free. It is called the grace and love of Jesus. And then we have to be courageous enough to go and preach that message. Amen.